Okay, so today we're going to strip cable. We have different tools here. You can perform this with this type of a box cutter knife with a hook blade. Basically, you would just perform a cut like this for your first cut. You can also use a pair of cable cutters around here. You just ring a cut. Today I'm going to use a tubing cutter. There's many different variations of this tubing cutter. This is the one that I prefer to use. I basically just put this on here. So basically we're prepping the cable to find the two pull strings that we're going to use to pull the jacket off the length that we need it for bare buffer tube that goes into our enclosure. So using the tubing cutter, you just roll the tubing cutter around till you can feel it in your hands that you're rolling over the steel strength members which are in this cable. So you don't want to use any type of a sheath or armor cutting tool with this type of a cable, because the steel strength members, which are embedded on both sides of the cable in the end, will damage the blade. So basically, we've got our cut. Now we're going to weaken the jacket and the armor. We just pull the jacket off. We go down and we find the two steel strength members and the pull strings. This one's a little bit short, but I think we can make it work. So now we're going to position the pull strings so they're polar opposites around our cable. So when we start winding the pull string down through the cable, they don't cross each other and cut each other inside of the cable. So basically, pulling the cable through the jacket to begin traveling down the jacket, and so the pull string has broken. So now I'm going to show you what you need. I'm going to show you what you need to do if you have a cable that has no string or it breaks. Because what you need to do is you need to prep the cable again. So I've cut this in so it stays round, and now we're going to just do another cut. Okay. As you work your way down the cable, if you continue to have problems with your string, this would be the same process that you would do all the way down the cable until you've reached your goal of the length of buffer tube you need to go into your enclosure, length of fiber into the enclosure. So, once again, we position the strings. I'm going to do a zoom on this. So you can see that the strings are not crossed over the strength member or each other. So you can see that I've walked the string down through the jacket. Try to keep going. Still rolling. Okay, so once again, we're going to have to prep down farther. Okay. So now we've got two good lengths of string. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get that working with the smaller cables. But so now I'm going to make sure that I'm not crossed over. Okay, so what I had to do is I had to look in the face of the cable and look at the positioning of the strength members and where the string is at to make sure that they're not crossing over each other. So I'm going to walk the string a little bit farther down through the cable. Before I throw it out. So now I know I can come back to this and basically just pick up the string and pull it straight down. So now we're going to go to the other side. You want to make sure when you're putting your pliers on here that you start turning the pliers in the right direction to get, in order to walk the cable, walk the string down through the cable. So you hold your pliers on the string and you turn the pliers in the direction that you're going to walk. Okay, once you're at this point, take the pull string, pull it down through. Take your pull string on the other side, you can see that the jacket is already beginning to separate from the tube. And that's what you want to see. Okay, pull the strings down so they're basically even. So now what you want to do, depending on what the length is of the tube that you need, don't worry about any issues at this end on the tube. There's a little crease right here because this is all going to be bare fiber once you put it into the enclosure. So now we're going to go over here, and I'm just going to say that this is the length that I need of buffer tube. And so I do my ring cut. Some people like to do this ring cut at the beginning. I like to do it at the end because I don't want to fatigue this until I'm down close to it with my strings. Okay, so you just fatigue that armor just a little bit. You still want it to be a little bit rigid. And we're going to take our string, we're going to pull past our cut. On the other side, we're going to pull past the cut for about an inch because we're going to want to put a grounding strap on either the strength members or the armor in the cable. Okay, so you can see I pulled it a good inch past the end of the jacket. Once you get down to this point, you want to make sure that when you do this ring cut, that you don't go too deep. With the ring cut, because you can always cut this end off. And you don't want to go so deep that you damage the buffer tube. So as you're working this down, you want to pull this back, and you want to look around the ring cut at your buffer tube and make sure that you haven't scored the buffer tube, which will cause it to break when you go to do the installation. So now you have, the cable has been prepared, it's open, it's ready for an enclosure or a patch panel or a chassis. Always make sure that you know where all of your spoils are so you can throw them away when you're done. And so the buffer tube here is ready to go. So at any point, if you are putting this much into your enclosure, what you're doing, then you would score this with the buffer tube cutter. And then you could take the bare fiber and put that into the tray as you need it. So the important thing is that you want to remember is that as you saw, sometimes the strings will not cooperate. So you have to be prepared with a method of getting the cable prepared down to where you need it. So anyway, here's a buffer tube tool. Times like that, pops it right off. Fibers are good, so you want to grab the fibers. You want to give them a tug, make sure you're still good, and then you want to just move this around, make sure there's no score on the buffer tube. Now you're ready for your enclosure.
Good job.